Should you simp for a woman? The reason I'm making this video is because I see how many lost men are out there simping for women today. Billions of men need to hear this message. I don't care if you're Alpha Chad or Mr. Sigma sitting in a corner or Mr. Beta using his whole paycheck on some online girl. You need to hear this message because here is the psychology behind simping. You see, a simp, what is a simp? Let's start with my definition. And I say my definition because there are so many definitions out there. So by watching this video, you'll be seeing my perspective on this whole matter. A simp is basically a man who is overly submissive to a female and without expecting anything in return. And when I say overly submissive, it means that he allows a woman to step all over him. He allows a woman to suck his soul dry. So what does simping look like? Here's an example. A guy meets a girl, for example, while attending a class at high school. This woman has something about her that triggers this guy to become very emotionally attached to her. Okay, he cannot let go of this woman. In his mind, he makes it his mission to win her over. And he doesn't use logic when winning her over. His emotions, they just all take over. So he will start sending her compliments, for example, by text. He will suggest they go out to dinner and eat dinner together, even though she makes it very clear she isn't interested in him, because simping is all about giving all of yourself to a woman who makes it very clear she isn't going to give anything in return. And sometimes she does. A simp can go into a relationship with a woman, but believe me, he will put 10 times more effort into this relationship than the woman will. And then you have the online simps, and this is becoming a very global problem. Part of my motivation for making this video is I saw a YouTube video on how extreme amounts of men spend extreme amounts of money on webcam girls. And I don't mean the dirty kind of webcam girls, I mean the ones you see on social media platforms. And they will just sit there and talk, and men will shower them with money without expecting anything in return. But they do expect something in return, and this is where the psychology comes in, because I'm digging into the depths of the psychology behind simping. There's plenty of videos on YouTube explaining what is a simp, should you simp, blah blah blah, and logic for and against and whatever. But this is the psychology behind simping. To understand what a simp is, we need to delve into the childhood of the simp, because every human being is created not only from birth but during the childhood years. The childhood years, a baby, a child, a new person spend with their parents and their surroundings will define them for the rest of their lives. These years will program these children. And deprogramming what has been programmed during these years is extremely difficult. Although it is possible, it's fully possible. The simp is created by a narcissistic woman. For every simp, for every male simp out there, there is a narcissistic mother. So I need to explain, what is a narcissistic mother? A narcissistic mother is once a little girl who never received the love and validation she was supposed to receive as a healthy human being from her parents. And this little girl, she grows up to become an adult woman, a narcissistic woman, because her ego craves nothing else from her human life than validation from the people around her. Love and validation is something she seeks, and she often seeks it from people who resemble her abusive parents. And when I say abusive parents, I mean mentally abusive parents, because if you don't provide your child with love, support, and validation, and you're not supposed to overwhelm your child with this, but a healthy amount is what lacks in every parent raising a narcissist. So the narcissistic mother, she one day meets a man who makes her pregnant, and she gives birth to a young male. And from early on, this young male is then trained by his narcissistic mother to obey her, and to validate her, and to give her love and affection without expecting anything in return. So at the base of every simp is a narcissistic mother who has trained this young male to become a simp. The narcissistic mother has trained him to become overly submissive to her, to do everything she says, and to constantly feed her with love and validation without expecting anything in return. Got it? So now you have a human being growing up to be an adult, moving out from his parents, whether the narcissistic mother was married to his father or whether she was taking care of him, and I mean taking care of him alone. He moves on to adult life, but he is still a child because he also didn't receive the healthy amount of love and validation from his mother. And perhaps his father, if his father gave him the love and validation he needed, then he is probably not a narcissist, not a sociopath, not a psychopath, but an empathic being with flaws, with trauma. And this trauma is the lack of love and faulty training from his mother. So now we have an adult, say he's 18 or 20 or 30 years old, an adult male who is programmed to feed women with validation. But even worse, his ego to feel accepted by society and the world around him is constantly seeking validation from women resembling his mother. Okay, so now you have this guy, this simp, walking around doing everything in his power to receive love and validation from narcissistic women. And believe me, the women you see on social media who accept money from these simps without giving anything in return, I would say at least 9 of 10 out of them are narcissists. These are narcissistic women who gladly accept payment from simps without giving anything in return. And don't tell me sitting talking on a webcam for hours, talking about everything and nothing is providing value. That's not value. These women, they are exploiting the psychological weaknesses in men who were taken away from normal love and validation from their mothers and trained to validate women in an overly unrealistic way. So that's a simp for you. And the simp, he will now try to find a girlfriend, a woman he can explore his sexuality with. And what kind of women do he seek? Do he seek women with empathy? No, because women with empathy, they do not resemble his mother. So he is stuck in a very bad place. He is stuck in a chase for validation from women, narcissistic women, who in no way whatsoever are able to provide him with healthy love and validation. Okay, so he is stuck. The simp is now stuck, and he doesn't understand this because his emotions for these women are what takes over. There's no logic behind it, and he knows, the simp knows there is no logic behind what he does. but his emotional pull is so strong because it's a deep childhood wound inside him that is searching for validation from his mother. And that's it. That's what a simp is. A simp is basically a mentally abused man who was trained to give everything he has to women who doesn't love him back. And now that's a very big problem because there are plenty of narcissistic women out there. And believe me, there are plenty of narcissistic men as well. But this video is about simping, and thus narcissistic women are one of the main topics. And hear me out, I will make a video that explains narcissism in a much better way, so make sure you subscribe because you really don't want to miss that video. So now then, I still haven't answered the question, have I? Should you simp for a woman? And the answer is no. You should not simp for a woman because the woman you feel emotionally obliged to simp for, she will never ever give you any love in return. She won't validate you. She will just give you breadcrumbs of validation so that you seek it even more from her. The problem with simping then is basically a problem with abused men seeking narcissistic women. And by watching this video, if you have fallen victim to simping, now you're aware what's going on. You're aware that this urge you feel to simp for this type of women, it's a childhood wound, it's a mental wound, and therapy will help you. Or you can use the powerful combination of meditation and journaling to explore your deep well of emotions. So how should you treat a woman? First of all, you need to learn to separate empath women, the only women you should go for ever, from narcissistic women, because narcissistic women will give you no joy. And once you are able to separate narcissistic women from women with empathy, only then can you start your healing journey. And it may be hard at first to become attracted to the empath woman because there's such a strong emotional pull toward the narcissist. But believe me, it's the only way you can become a grown-up man, an adult with success in his life, with real confidence, because as long as you seek validation from the narcissistic mother in other women, you will never be free. You will always be a victim to the abuse from your narcissistic mother. When you've met this empath woman and you've gotten to know her, come back to this channel and watch my upcoming video on how to treat women.